You know that feeling, that quiet sense that maybe your discipleship efforts could have, well, more impact.
Hmm.
You pour your heart into it, you really care, but sometimes it feels like you're not seeing the results you hoped for.
Yeah, that quiet ache, as the source material puts it. It's a
Oh.
common feeling.
So today, in this deep dive, we're not questioning your passion at all. What we want to explore is how to connect that heartfelt vision with a real grounded understanding of what's happening.
Exactly. We're pulling insights from the shepherd's eye, discerning God's will through vision and evidence in discipleship. Think of it as like a practical guide,
Okay.
moving beyond just guessing what works,
Yeah.
and really starting to see how God is moving in the lives of the people we're walking alongside.
Right. So our goal here, our mission for you listening, is to give you an approach that's, well, both biblically solid and really practical, something that helps you genuinely understand God's work in people's lives, leading to discipleship that feels, I guess, more effective and honestly more fulfilling.
Yeah, definitely.
So where do we start? How do we begin bridging that gap between our vision and the actual evidence?
Well, first off, it's important to see this isn't some like new management technique. The Bible itself is actually full of calls for wisdom and discernment.
Okay.
It's not just about blind obedience. It's an active seeking of understanding. Proverbs, for instance, is constantly telling us to get wisdom, seek insight.
Right. Cry aloud for understanding.
Exactly. Proverbs 2. If you call out for insight, then you will understand the fear of the Lord. It's presented as an active thing, a pursuit.
So it's not passive. We're meant to engage our minds, not just, tick boxes.
Precisely. And think about Jesus' own ministry. He wasn't just dropping pronouncements from on high.
No, he was deeply observant.
Incredibly so. He saw the crowds, their needs. He asked these really thoughtful questions. He was always assessing, discerning the hearts of people he met. His whole ministry showed this deep awareness.
That makes me think of the parable, the wise and foolish builders, Matthew 7.
Yeah, great example.
You can have this amazing vision for a house, but if you don't build it on a solid foundation, understanding the ground you're building on, what happens?
It collapses when the storms hit. Such a powerful analogy for discipleship, isn't it?
Yeah.
Your vision, no matter how heartfelt, if it's not rooted in a real understanding of the people, their lives, their struggles,
No.
it's just, well, it's vulnerable.
And we see this beyond the Gospels too, right? Like in the early church, Acts 15.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
That big decision about the Gentile believers wasn't just, here's the rule.
Right. They looked at things.
They did.
Yeah.
What's fascinating is how they brought together Scripture and the evidence, the tangible work of the Holy Spirit they were seeing among the Gentiles.
Okay.
They discerned God's will, using both revelation and observation. It shows that good discipleship isn't about forcing everyone into the same box.
It's more like partnering with the Spirit.
Exactly. Understanding and nurturing each person's unique journey.
Which kind of leads us to this idea from the source material, the shepherd's eye. It's more than just counting heads, I take it.
Oh, much more. The shepherd's eye is about a deliberate, thoughtful, discerning gaze.
Okay.
It means actively trying to understand the flock, their needs, their contexts, how they're responding, not just, managing them from afar.
Okay, so the Bible gives us a really strong why for this approach. But let's be honest. Why is it often so hard to actually do it? Why do we struggle to integrate evidence? What are the roadblocks the source mentions?
Well, one of the biggest ones, and it's often subconscious, is what the book calls the sacred-secular divide.
Ah, right. This idea that faith and reason are totally separate things.
Exactly. Or maybe even opposed to each other. That spiritual stuff and observable facts live in different worlds.
I can see that. There's almost a hesitation, isn't there? Like if we analyze spiritual growth too much, we might, reduce God's mystery or something.
That fear of reductionism is real. And sometimes it comes from, historical baggage where reason was set against faith. People genuinely want to protect the sacred.
Yeah.
But the downside is it can make us shy away from data, from asking hard questions. We might lean too heavily on like one moving anecdote instead of looking at broader patterns.
So we hear one great story and assume that's how it is for everyone, even if the overall picture is different.
Precisely. And then there's another big one, the idol of activity.
Oof. Yeah. Been there.
Haven't we all? We get so caught up in the doing the programs, the meetings, the events, that we kind of lose sight of the real goal.
Which is?
Genuine heart transformation.
Yeah.
Sometimes I think being constantly busy can even be a way to avoid being still and truly listening for God's leading. Like
Right.
activity becomes a shield.
Wow. Yeah, it's so easy to think a packed schedule means we're making a difference.
Totally.
Yeah.
But the source warns against measuring success by, attendance numbers or how many events we run, instead of looking for the actual fruit of the Spirit, love, joy, peace, patience, all that.
Galatians 5.
Exactly. We can end up valuing our busyness over God's transforming work.
Okay, another one that jumped out at me from the notes was the Lone Ranger syndrome. I think a lot of leaders feel this pressure, right? Like it's all on their shoulders.
It's really common. But think about the early church. It was all about community, fellowship, mutual support.
Right, not one person doing everything.
When we try to go it alone, we miss out. We miss accountability. We miss different perspectives that could challenge our assumptions.
And we probably keep doing things that aren't really working because no one's pointing it out. We have blind spots.
Huge blind spots. It's like, everyone's holding one piece of the puzzle, but nobody's putting them together. Collaboration helps see the whole picture.
Good analogy. And then there's the one we all struggle with, confirmation bias.
Ah, yes. Our tendency to look for proof that we're already right.
Yeah.
It's just human nature, but it really gets in the way of objectively seeing if our discipleship is effective. We might unconsciously ignore or explain away evidence that doesn't fit what we want to believe.
It feels good to be validated, right?
Yeah.
Even if that validation isn't based on, well, reality.
Exactly. And admitting our favorite program isn't working or an assumption is wrong, that takes humility. It's uncomfortable.
Definitely.
And finally, the source mentions a really practical one. Just sheer busyness.
The tyranny of the urgent. Yeah, ministry often feels like putting out fires constantly.
It does. And when you're always reacting, there's just no time or energy left for that deeper reflection, for gathering feedback, for planning based on what you're learning.
So you get stuck in reactive mode instead of being proactive.
Pretty much. You're responding to the immediate, not necessarily shaping things for the long haul.
Okay, these roadblocks are definitely real. But the good news is the source doesn't just leave us there. It offers this renewed action plan for cultivating that shepherd's eye. And I like that it stresses it's not about becoming like a statistician.
No, not at all. It's about fostering humble inquiry, really wanting to understand how God's working through His Word, yes, but also through what we can actually observe. The plan has 4 phases.
Okay, let's walk through them. Phase 1 is reclaiming the integrated mind. So tackling that sacred-secular split head on. What are the first steps, like in weeks 1 to 4?
So week 1 is all about sparking curiosity. Maybe reading something that explores faith and social science together. The source even names authors like Christian Smith or Rodney Stark. It calls it an intellectual adventure.
I like that framing. Less
Yeah.
intimidating.
Right. Then week 2 gets more personal. Identify one area, just one, in your discipleship where you've been hesitant to, think critically or look for evidence.
Ooh, that requires some honesty. Pinpointing those things we don't really want to question.
It does. And week 3 naturally follows.
Hmm.
Prayer. Specifically praying for wisdom, asking God to show you your blind spots. It grounds the whole thing in dependence on Him.
Crucial.
And this phase wraps up by really affirming that God made both the spiritual and the material. All truth is God's truth, to bringing them together.
And the affirmation mentioned is great. I am a whole person integrating my faith and intellect. It reframes using our minds as worship, doesn't it?
It really does. Then phase 2 shifts focus, shifting the metric from activity to fruit.
Okay.
This tackles that idol of activity. What happens here? Week 5 is about getting specific. Instead of just counting programs, identify maybe 3 to 5 observable signs of real spiritual transformation.
Like what?
Well, the source suggests things like seeing more compassion in someone, or they're quicker to forgive, or they show a growing desire to serve others. Tangible stuff.
Right, things you could actually notice, not just abstract ideas.
Exactly. Then week 6 is, okay, how can I simply track this? Doesn't have to be fancy, maybe just notes in a journal or a super simple check-in, whatever works.
So moving from abstract growth to concrete indicators.
You got it. And week 7 follows logically. Start focusing your energy on activities you genuinely believe will nurture those specific indicators, not just activities that fill the calendar.
Makes sense. Being more intentional.
Yeah. A tool mentioned is a fruitfulness journal, just jotting down where you are seeing fruit. And week 8, crucial, schedule time. Just 30 minutes a week, maybe, dedicated to reflecting on what you're seeing and learning.
That dedicated time feels key. Otherwise, it just gets squeezed out, right?
Always. Okay, phase 3, building the collaborative network. Bye-bye, Lone Ranger syndrome.
Yes. How do we do that?
Week 9, Identify 2 or 3 people, trusted colleagues, mentors you can actually talk openly with about this stuff.
Okay.
Week 10, actually schedule time to meet with them regularly. Share what you're doing, what you're learning, and here's the important part. Ask for their feedback. Get their perspective.
Asking for feedback, that can feel vulnerable, but so necessary for spotting those blind spots.
Absolutely vital. And week 11 encourages looking broader, maybe joining a peer learning group, connecting with others on a similar journey.
Finding community around this.
Yeah. And the whole phase emphasizes setting up some accountability and, really importantly, reframing feedback. It's not criticism, it's a gift to help you grow.
Changing how we receive feedback makes all the difference. Okay, final phase. Embracing the learning cycle. This sounds ongoing, tackling confirmation bias.
It really is ongoing. It talks about managing your energy rest. Spiritual disciplines are key so you don't burn out and can stay open.
Good point.
It mentions mindfulness, just being present and aware of what's actually happening, and also celebrating progress. Acknowledge the small steps forward.
Yeah, don't just focus on what's not working.
Right. And the core idea is making this a rhythm. Continuous improvement. Regularly asking that key question, what does God want us to know before we act? Research and reflection become normal, not extra.
It's a big shift, isn't it? From just hoping for the best to actively trying to understand and adapt.
Huge.
Now, the source also talks about reigniting our drive, especially if you, the listener, are feeling kind of stuck or plateaued even though you're trying hard. And it circles back to this vision meets evidence idea as being key here.
Yeah, and it clarifies again, this isn't about needing a degree in statistics overnight. It's about building a habit of being a wiser, more discerning disciple maker. Grounding that big vision you have in an honest look at what's actually happening right now.
And to get that honest look, we need to be clear on what growth even means in our context.
Yeah.
The source lays out different dimensions, doesn't it?
It does. It talks about like the depth of transformation, real shifts in values, becoming more Christ-like.
Okay.
Then there's community health, how connected and supportive is the group? Are they on mission together?
Uh-huh.
Also, missional impact, or people looking outward, sharing their faith, leadership development, or new leaders being raised up. And even sustainability, can this last? Can it grow?
And it's just that for you listening, maybe your North Star, the thing you care most deeply about, is that inner transformation and seeing that translate into outward missional impact.
Exactly. Knowing your North Star helps focus where you look first. But then the source brings back those roadblocks we talked about, but specifically thinking about why you might be feeling stuck.
Right, like that faith versus facts thing again, reminding us we might subconsciously feel like looking at data is unspiritual.
Yeah, or distrusting numbers when it comes to faith, maybe fearing we're trying to quantify the sacred. It might trace back to that historical suspicion of intellectual stuff in some faith circles.
And how does that show up?
Maybe it's just a resistance to asking tough questions or clinging really tightly to assumptions without checking them.
Then there's the too busy to measure trap, which just feels so real for so many ministry leaders.
Oh, absolutely. It's often not a lack of wanting to know, but genuinely feeling overwhelmed. Like you don't have the systems, maybe not the skills, or just the mental space to add another thing like data gathering.
And the Lone Ranger thing can make that worse, right? If you feel alone and even wanting to look at things this way, it can feel pretty isolating, maybe even pointless.
Definitely. And finally, that hope is enough fallacy. It sounds noble, but
just hoping doesn't change things.
right. We really want to see growth, but if it's not happening, we might just keep hoping it will instead of digging into why it's not. Maybe because we're afraid of what we'll find out, afraid of uncomfortable truths.
So we got to move beyond just wishing and actually investigate. And the source gives another practical step-by-step plan, specifically for you, the listener, to reignite that drive using that research prayer lens again.
Yeah. What does God want us to know before we act? It mirrors the other plan, but is really tailored for personal application. Phase 1 is the curiosity spark. Again, gently nudging past that faith versus facts barrier.
Okay, micro win number 1.
Just read one article or listen to one podcast, something that talks about discipleship with a bit of a research angle. The source suggests checking out places like the Gospel Coalition or Christianity Today. Maybe searching discipleship research. Frame it as a little discovery mission for yourself.
Nice and small, just dip a toe in.
Exactly. Micro win 2. Identify and write down one assumption you hold about your discipleship. The example given is a classic. Assuming people really grasp core concepts like grace.
Okay, name the assumption. Then what?
Week 3. Brainstorm one simple question to test that assumption. Like, on a scale of 1 to 5, how confident are you explaining grace? Keep it super simple.
Got it.
And the value reminder here is that seeking understanding honors God. It's using the mind he gave us. The affirmation: I am a thoughtful and discerning disciple maker. I embrace learning.
Love that. Okay, phase 2, the data dip, tackling the too busy to measure feeling.
Right. Week 5, use that simple question you came up with. Ask maybe just 5 or 10 people. Frame it as a quick feedback challenge. Aim for everyone to respond if you can.
Low stakes, small group.
Totally. Week 6, look at the answers. Any patterns, don't overthink it. Even just tallying the 1 to 5 scale responses tells you something. Was your assumption right? Or maybe off?
Okay, look at the results.
Week 7, make one small tweak based on what you saw. If confidence in explaining grace was low, maybe your next group time includes some real-life examples of grace. Simple adjustment.
Practical tools mentioned here too?
Yeah, free stuff like Google Forms or SurveyMonkey can make asking the question easy. And again, schedule that 30 minutes a week for this data dip. Make it non-negotiable. Treat it like an important meeting.
Making time for learning is key. Phase 3, the community connection. Fighting the Lone Ranger feeling.
Yep. Week 9. Share what you found in your little data dip and the adjustment you're planning with someone you trust, mentor, colleague. Ask them, what do you think?
Get some outside eyes on it.
Exactly. Week 10. Maybe look for an online group or forum about discipleship or faith-based learning. Connect with others asking similar questions. Search Facebook or LinkedIn.
Broaden the network.
Right. Week 11. Maybe share what you learned with a few other leaders in your church or ministry. Not a big formal report, just a learning share. Here's something interesting I found out.
Make it collaborative.
And throughout this, find an accountability partner if you can. And remember, setbacks, they're just learning opportunities. Reframe them.
That mindset shift from failure to learning is huge. Okay, last phase. The sustainable cycle. Breaking the hope is enough habit for good.
This is about the long game. It stresses taking care of yourself, rest, self-care, so you don't burn out doing this.
Can't pour from an empty cup.
So true. It also mentions being present, mindful, really paying attention to people and dynamics.
Yeah.
And celebrate those wins. Acknowledge every step you take. Reward the action.
Important.
And the core idea, again, is making this a rhythm. Research, reflection, asking, what does God want us to know before we act, becomes just part of how you do discipleship.
So it's not a project with an end date, but a way of being, a way of leading.
Exactly.
The source does acknowledge, look, this takes time. There will be challenges, things you didn't expect to find.
Definitely. It's a journey.
But it keeps pointing back to your North Star, that deep transformation and missional impact you long to see.
And it's encouraging, really. It reminds us that embracing vision meets evidence isn't just about being more effective practically. It's actually about being a more faithful, more discerning steward of this amazing calling to make disciples.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, maybe just take a moment to think about this. What's one small piece of evidence, just one observation, one simple question you could gather this week? Something that might gently challenge an assumption you've held for a while about your discipleship. Remember, starting this journey isn't about becoming some data guru overnight. It's about cultivating a more faithful, more discerning way to lead and serve. And honestly, you've got this.